Okay, we are creating some vector graphics that will become a laser cut poster. We got to this point in our project in the Inkscape basics video, and it's kind of a common misconception that at this point we're done and ready to send this file to the laser. We want to do a few tests before we get to that point and make sure that all of our text and pictures will appear the way we want them to in the finished project. So at this point, the paint bucket tool is going to be pretty useful for us. We come over here and pick this paint bucket tool. It says it will fill in bounded areas. The bounded area is everything inside of our border that we created. So when we pick our paint bucket, we need to pay careful attention to our fill and stroke up here in the top corner. Right now, Inkscape is telling us that we've got no fill color and we've got a red stroke color. We're going to want only a fill color in here. So we want to select the no color for our stroke and pick, I guess, whatever color you're going to want for your finished poster. We'll make this one blue. And whenever we click our paint bucket in our bounded area, we get a pretty good idea of what this poster would look like. We can get an exact idea of what the poster will look like if we select all of the objects on our page, hold down the shift button, and take away the color for our lines in that poster. At this point, we can see that we've probably got a few things we're going to need to fix. We've got some letters that don't quite come out right, and we've lost some of the detail from our wrench in the picture. I'm going to simply press Control Z a couple times here to go back to my poster without the fill color. For our text, we have a couple options. We can go in and break all of the lines in that text to allow the paper that's on the inside and the outside of those letters to be connected, or we can pick a different font, which is usually a much easier technique. So we're going to take a look at changing our font. If we select all of our text, we can come up here to our font box and look through all of the different fonts that are available on this particular computer. Every computer is going to be slightly different depending on what fonts have been installed. We're going to want some sort of a stenciled font. If we don't have any on here that we like, additional ones can be installed pretty easily. But any stenciled font we look at is going to have these breaks already built into the letters, so that all of our details will stay intact whenever we go and cut those out. Drag this box back over here, and we can do another quick check with our paint bucket tool and see if that text is going to look better with this font. We've got our blue fill color again here, and now whenever we use that to fill our bounded areas, we can see all of the details inside each letter simply by changing that font. In the event that you don't have any fonts on your computer that are a stenciled type of lettering, we can come to 1001fonts.com and take a look at some different stenciled fonts. There are 17 pages of them here. You can click through and find something that you like. And installing that is as simple as clicking the download button. And once that font downloads, it will give you this little folder in the corner. You click the folder, and you'll want to take a look at these files in here that say they are a true type font file. Some of them will have only font files, some of them will have some text files mixed in. But whenever you click on those, you'll get this little preview, and you can make sure that's the font that you wanted. And to install this, all we need to do is click the install button up here. The box will pop up for a second. That's it. It's all done. It's installed. One thing we do need to keep in mind is after we install this with Inkscape already open, that font won't be immediately available. You'll have to close Inkscape and reopen it. I'm satisfied with this font that I have here, but I do need to make some changes with this wrench in my picture so that we can see the little gear part in the middle. In the last video, the Inkscape Basics video, we looked at ways to break apart a whole picture and turn it into separate items. And I mentioned in that video that you can also do that with lines. If we go back to our node selector, we'll take a look at how we can break a line apart. Whenever we click on any line, all of our nodes pop up here. And if we need to add any nodes, we can simply double click on that line anywhere we want to and add a node. We're going to need at least 2 nodes here that we can click on. Right now, if I just keep clicking back and forth, I can only have one or the other selected. If I want to have 2 nodes, I need to hold down the shift button when I click. I've got 2 nodes selected at the same time. I'm going to use that same series of keystrokes from breaking apart the picture. Hold down the shift button and press B and release all buttons. Hold down the control and the shift button and press K. Shift B, control shift K. Now we can see this one little section that I had selected between these nodes is now a separate piece, and I can click on this and delete it. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side of my wrench. Select these 2 nodes, Shift B, Control Shift K, click outside of my drawing somewhere, and then come find that piece, delete that one. And I guess I have to do that same thing on the gear section inside. Shift B, Control Shift K. Delete this piece now, and I've got one more part to delete. Shift B, Control Shift K. So at this point, everything is deleted that I need deleted. I probably should just join these pieces together. We can come over here and pick this pen tool that says Draw Bezier Curves and Straight Lines. We can use this method to connect our pieces. I clicked right at the end of this line. I'm going to double click on this one so that it just draws one line and ends it. If I would have just clicked one time, it would continue my line on indefinitely, and I only wanted one short segment. So again, we can click, go to the other point, double click, those lines are created. Another option that we have is to select our node arrow again. If we add another node here right behind our endpoint, and we can grab the endpoint and just drag this down to wherever we want it. Do the same thing with this one. Actually, I think I'm going to delete this node. Delete. Do the same thing on the other side here. Grab this node, drag this up to meet my other line. At this point, we've got a nice break in the lines here, and our paper will stay connected in the center. If we go back to our paint bucket tool, I'm just going to change these colors so everything is red again. Oops. Undo, Control Z. Didn't want to click that. Go back to my paint bucket tool. I have to again check my fill and stroke colors. I have a red fill and a red stroke. I don't want any stroke color. Hold down Shift, click on no color, and I had a blue fill before. We'll use that same blue fill now. I fill that with my paint bucket. This is starting to look a lot more recognizable now. We can see all the parts of the wrench, we can see our gear around the outside, and we can make out all of the letters through the Invent, Create, Innovate text. The reason that I say we don't want to have any stroke color with our paint bucket is we'll end up creating an extra path that the laser will follow. I'm going to go ahead and delete my paint in here right now just to show you how that would work. If we pick our paint bucket, here's our blue fill color. We'll pick a color other than red for our stroke. We'll go with green. Now if I do my same paint bucket that I did before, everything looks fine, but once we zoom in closer, we can see that we've got our original red path that the laser would follow, and now we've got this green line also. And whenever the project is finished and sent to the laser, it's going to trace around both of these lines, and we're going to lose some detail in our drawing. We're also going to kind of waste a bunch of time with the laser. So we got to be pretty cautious with that we do not end up adding an extra path. Once we've got this paint bucket on here, we've got a good idea of what our picture will look like, and we know whether we're done or we have to continue adding more details. We have to go ahead and take that paint bucket away before we can print this. So if you just did it, it's as simple as pressing Control-Z to undo what you just had. But let's say maybe you did the paint bucket tool one day, saved your file, came back the next day to continue your work, and now you can't undo it. Nothing to panic. We can pick our regular selector arrow, click anywhere in your painted section, and press the delete button, and all of that paint bucket will go away. Once we're at this point, we have to get these lines down to the size that our laser can understand, which is 1/1000th of an inch, 0.001 inches. So we're going to select everything on our screen and take a look down here at our fill and stroke menu. Again, if you don't have that, you go up to Object and click on Fill and Stroke. That will give you this menu. Make sure you're working in inches, and we need 0.001 inches thick. So once we do that, it kind of looks like we lost our whole project. That is not the case. If we zoom in really close, we can see those lines are still there. They're just so thin that we can't see them. And that kind of makes sense. If you think about this entire page being 22 inches by 14 inches, and from where we're looking at it from, it only looks this big. So if we were to take something that's 0.001 inches, well, 22 from here to here is a pretty big number, and it only looks this big, so 0.001 is going to look very, very tiny. So at this point, we've got a finished file that's ready to send to the laser. We have to save this file appropriately to do that. That means that we have to save this as a PDF document. So we're going to come up to File and click on Save As. Anytime you're working on a project that you know you're going to come back to it and you want to work on it again, you'll want to save it as just the type that it is here, an Inkscape SVG. So before we make any other changes, we're going to save this in case we want to come back and make some edits at some point. Make sure you pay attention to where you are saving. It's a very common problem. People will save things into maybe the downloads folder, or to their desktop, or to any other folder that somebody created on that computer. And then when they go to reopen that work later, they can't find it. We want to make sure we're saving in documents for everything that we do on here. So we've got a lot of options. Make sure you're saving in documents. Make sure your file has a name that you're going to remember. If everyone saves their project as Project 1, there's going to be a lot of overwritten files and a lot of lost work. Maybe put your name in there and then the project or something, but make sure it has a name. First, we'll save it as an SVG in case we want to edit. Now we're going to come up here to File, Save As, and if we want to send this to the laser, we said it has to be a PDF document. So we're going to change our file type. The fifth one down says Portable Document Format. That's a PDF. We're going to save this as a PDF. Save. And this little box will pop up. We should have Convert Text to Paths selected, and very important that we have Use Documents Page Size. We made this document 22 by 14. We want to make sure that it comes out 22 by 14, so that needs to be selected. We click OK, and that's it. We've got a finished project ready to send to the laser.